Hi everyone, it's LaShonda from Labors of Love with another Therapy Thursday video. So today I want to talk a little bit about traumatic memory. So there is a very popular misconception that trauma is a bad memory, and that if people just don't think about it or they forget about it or just get over the things that have happened to them in the past, then they can be better. And so I wanted to take time to just talk about how that's not true. So, when we remember something, let's say your 18th birthday, and if I were to say, hey, think about your 18th birthday, I like to think of it as you going into a file cabinet in your brain, the memory part of your brain, and going to the file that was marked whatever year you turned 18, pulling out that file and being like, oh, yeah, I hung out with friends. It was cold because my birthday's in December. We went here, we did this, it was cool. That's how kind of the memory part of our brain works. We actually think we have better memories than we do. We don't remember as much about the original incident as we remember our last retelling of that event. And so, if I've talked about my 18th birthday several times, what I'm actually remembering when I'm telling you about it is what I remember from the last time I told it. Memories also lose their edges. So that means if my 18th birthday at the time was the best experience I'd ever had in my life, at 38 years old, 20 years later, retelling that story, it was good. It was a good memory. If it was the worst experience I felt like I had ever had, 20 years later when I'm telling you, I'd be like, yeah, it wasn't that great. It wasn't that good. It was kind of bad. Right? The intensity of the emotional connections to memories, they dwindle over time. That is very different than a traumatic memory. Trauma memories are not bad memories, they are actually body memories. What that means is that these memories are stored in the body, and our five senses, anything that comes through our five senses, can trigger that body memory. It means I don't go to the memory part of my brain, but it's actually my central nervous system that is activated when I think about or when I am re experiencing a traumatic memory. It does not lose its edges. The intensity of it do not dwindle over time. And when a traumatic memory is triggered, it is like having that experience again in that moment. I would suggest that you have experienced or seen someone having a traumatic memory probably more than you would even realize. Sometimes it's a person's response to a situation. So when we talk about PTSD or post traumatic stress disorder, there is a common example used with maybe a military veteran that walking down the street, a car backfires, that sound triggers the traumatic experience in that veteran, and the veteran drops down to the ground as if they're back in combat. What we and there was a point in time when PTSD was a diagnosis reserved for only those who had experienced combat. Now we know that there are numerous people who have PTSD and symptoms of PTSD, even young children, who are having the same experiences, where something that they see, smell, taste, hear, or feel on their skin is triggering a traumatic experience that becomes very active and live inside of their bodies, and then they're responding to that event, not what's in front of them. And so that means that if you're talking to a person, and it could be something that you say, it could be the smell of the cologne or perfume you're wearing, or a sound that's happening in the atmosphere. If that triggers a traumatic experience for someone, or triggers an experience they've had that was traumatic, in that moment, they begin to interact with the experience, the traumatic experience, not with you. If you've ever had someone, it's like they glaze over their eyes, they're not present, but they're talking to you, they're yelling at you, they're screaming, they're attempting to attack you. It has absolutely nothing to do with you, but they're interacting with the moment of their trauma, not with the actual thing that's happening in front of them. I thought that was important to talk about because as we move towards the fall, we're getting closer to holiday seasons. We're getting closer to times when a lot of people are being triggered by some of their traumatic experiences. Not that this doesn't happen all year long for many people. I just thought it was a great opportunity to help people understand that it is not a bad memory, it is a body memory. So now that we understand that and we can see when people are interacting with something that's not right in front of them, that gives us indication that maybe they're having a traumatic response to something in the environment, something that's come through their five senses, and that the only way to kind of get them to come back to the present is to create safety. Let them know that they're safe. If you work for an organization, a church, a school, and you are interested in helping the people who work for you and your staff understand more about trauma, trauma memories, and how to engage people in a very trauma responsive way, Labors of Love would love to walk alongside you on that journey. You can reach out to us at www.thelaborsoflove.com, or you can find us on all major social media outlets and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until we connect again, be well.